For nearly 5,000 years we have been told the same story. The Great Pyramid of Giza was built around 2550 before Christ by Pharaoh Khufu. Constructed by thousands of dedicated workers using nothing but copper chisels, wooden sledges, and sheer human determination. It is a story of ancient ingenuity, primitive tools, and coordinated labor on an unimaginable scale. But here is the problem. Practically everything you have ever learned about the pyramids is not based on solid archaeological evidence. It is based on assumptions, guesses, and theories that have been repeated so often they have become accepted as fact. And one man has spent his entire career challenging those assumptions with evidence so compelling that mainstream archaeology has struggled to respond. His name is Graham Hancock, and what he has uncovered might finally end the pyramid debate once and for all. If you have ever wondered whether there is more to ancient history than what you learned in school, trust me, you will want to keep watching. Because the evidence Hancock has assembled does not just raise questions. It demands answers that the establishment seems unwilling to provide. Let us start with something that has been hiding in plain sight for centuries: the precision of the Great Pyramid itself. Modern architects and engineers still marvel at how accurately this structure aligns with true north. We are not talking about roughly north, or approximately north, or approximately north. We are talking about precision to 0.05 degrees. That is more accurate than many modern buildings constructed with laser guidance systems. Think about that for a moment. A civilization supposedly working with copper tools and rope achieved alignment precision that rivals what we accomplish today with satellite technology. Either the ancient Egyptians were far more advanced than historians want to admit, or someone else built this structure using methods we do not understand. But here is where it gets even more interesting. The Great Pyramid is not just aligned to north. Its four sides deviate from perfect straightness by an average of only 2.1 inches across 756 feet. That is a margin of error so small, it is almost impossible to achieve even with modern construction techniques. Engineer Christopher Dunn spent years studying the granite blocks inside the Great Pyramid. What he found challenges everything we thought we knew about ancient construction. Perfectly round drill cores, remarkably precise cuts, spiral grooves inside drill holes that suggest rotational machining at speeds impossible to achieve by hand. Recent attempts by modern researchers to duplicate these cuts using copper chisels have failed dramatically. Their tools became unusable within hours. They made minimal progress even after days of continuous effort. The marks inside the pyramid suggest tools that cut through granite like butter. Even today's technology struggles with these tasks. So what exactly were the ancient Egyptians using? Or more importantly, were the Egyptians the ones who actually built this? Graham Hancock has proposed a theory that sends shivers through mainstream academia. What if the Great Pyramid, and many other ancient structures around the world, were built by a lost civilization that existed before recorded history? A civilization that possessed knowledge and technology that was subsequently lost, forgotten, or deliberately hidden. The evidence for this theory is stronger than most people realize. Consider the water erosion patterns around the Great Sphinx. Geologist Robert Schoch from Boston University has extensively studied these patterns. What he found is remarkable. The erosion on the Sphinx enclosure is vertical, caused by rainfall running down the walls over extended periods. Here is the mystery. The last time Egypt received enough rainfall to cause this level of erosion was over 12,000 years ago, during the end of the last ice age. That predates the conventional dating of the Sphinx by at least 8,000 years. The implications are staggering. If the Sphinx was carved before 10,000, before Christ, who carved it? The conventional timeline tells us organized civilization did not exist yet. Humans were supposedly hunter-gatherers, living in small nomadic groups, incapable of coordinating the massive labor force required for such a monument. But the water erosion does not lie. Something does not add up. Hancock has connected these findings to a broader pattern he has identified around the world. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, carbon dated to 9600 before Christ, features intricately carved stone pillars weighing up to 20 tons, arranged in precise circular patterns. The site was deliberately buried around 8000 before Christ, hidden beneath tons of soil, as if someone wanted to preserve it or conceal it. Underwater ruins off the coast of Japan, known as the Yonaguni Monument, feature what appear to be massive stepped platforms, carved staircases, and geometric shapes that some researchers believe are too regular to be natural formations. Conventional geology claims it is all natural rock. But divers who have explored the site report symmetry that seems deliberately designed. The periodized map, drawn in 1513, accurately depicts the coastline of Antarctica without its ice sheet. But Antarctica was not officially discovered until 1820, and it has been covered in ice for at least 6,000 years. How could a 16th century cartographer have access to such information unless he was copying from much older source maps? Hancock's theory suggests these are all fragments of the same lost puzzle, a global civilization that flourished before a catastrophic event, possibly the Younger Dryas impact around 12,800 years ago, wiped out most traces of their existence. Now, I am no conspiracy theorist, but when you see the same patterns appearing on different continents, built by cultures that supposedly had no contact with each other, you have to ask questions. The ancient Egyptians left detailed records of almost everything. They documented their harvests, their rulers, their religious ceremonies, their wars. But when it comes to the construction of the Great Pyramid, one of the most ambitious building projects in human history, the records are strangely silent. No detailed construction documents, no workers' diaries describing the techniques, no administrative records tracking the massive logistics. For a civilization so meticulous about documentation, this absence is deafening. And here is what makes it even stranger. The later pyramids built by subsequent pharaohs are demonstrably inferior in quality. The precision decreases, the construction techniques become cruder. If the Egyptians perfected pyramid building with the Great Pyramid, why did their skills decline afterward instead of improving? It is almost as if they did not build it at all, as if they inherited these structures and gradually lost the knowledge of how they were made. This brings us to another piece of evidence that Hancock considers crucial: the alignment of the pyramids with the stars. In 1994, Robert Bauval proposed the Orion correlation theory. The three pyramids of Giza are arranged in a pattern that precisely mirrors the three stars of Orion's belt. But here's the catch. They mirror the position of those stars as they appeared around 10,500 before Christ, not 2,500 before Christ, when the pyramids were supposedly built. Conventional archaeologists have dismissed this as coincidence. But when you combine it with the water erosion evidence, the precision engineering that surpasses modern capability, and the strange silence of historical records, the coincidences start piling up. Let me ask you something. How many coincidences does it take before you start looking for a different explanation? The establishment response to Hancock's work has been predictable. Mainstream archaeologists have attacked his credentials, dismissed his evidence, and insisted that extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. But here's the thing: Hancock is not making extraordinary claims. He is asking ordinary questions that the evidence itself raises. Why is there water erosion on a structure supposedly built in a desert climate? Why do primitive tools leave marks that suggest advanced machining? Why are there astronomical alignments that point to a much earlier date? The real question is not whether Hancock's theories are correct. The real question is why mainstream archaeology seems so determined to avoid investigating them. Consider what happened when researchers proposed using ground-penetrating radar to scan for hidden chambers inside the Great Pyramid. Initial scans in the 1990s detected anomalies, voids that suggested undiscovered spaces. But when independent researchers requested permission to conduct more detailed surveys, those requests were denied. Dr. Zahi Hawass, who controlled Egyptian archaeology for decades, has consistently blocked research that might challenge the conventional narrative. Alternative researchers have been denied access. Documentary crews have been turned away. Independent studies have been suppressed or discredited. Why the resistance? If the conventional timeline is correct, what is the harm in letting independent researchers verify it? The reluctance to allow open investigation suggests there is something the establishment does not want found. Hancock has spent years gathering evidence from around the world. What emerges is a picture of prehistoric humanity that is far more sophisticated than the textbooks admit. Ancient maps show lands that had not been discovered yet. Structures built with precision we struggle to match today. Astronomical knowledge encoded in monuments that predates written history. Flood myths appear in nearly every culture on Earth, describing a catastrophic event that destroyed an earlier civilization. The pattern is too consistent to ignore. Something happened in humanity's past that we have forgotten or been made to forget. Let's talk about something that rarely gets mentioned in the pyramid debate: the interior chambers. The king's chamber inside the Great Pyramid is constructed from granite blocks weighing up to 80 tons each. These blocks were quarried 500 miles away in Aswan and transported to Giza. Then they were lifted over 150 feet in the air and positioned with joints so tight you cannot fit a piece of paper between them. Inside the king's chamber sits a granite sarcophagus that is too large to have passed through the chamber's entrance passage. This means it was placed during construction, and the entire chamber was built around it. The logistics of this are mind-boggling even with modern equipment. But here is what really puzzles engineers. The sarcophagus shows evidence of having been hollowed out by some kind of tubular drill. The drill marks suggest a tool rotating at speeds that would be impossible to achieve manually. The precision of the interior surfaces is consistent with machine fabrication, not hand carving. Even with modern diamond-tipped drills, achieving this level of precision in granite is challenging. The ancient Egyptians supposedly did it with copper tools and sand. Does that seem plausible to you? There's another mystery that Hancock has highlighted. The Great Pyramid was originally covered in smooth white limestone casing stones. When sunlight hit these stones, the pyramid would have gleamed like a beacon visible for miles. These casing stones were machined to such precision that the joints between them were barely visible. The surface they created was optically flat, reflecting light uniformly in a way that required a sophisticated understanding of geometry and optics. Most of these casing stones were stripped away over the centuries, used as building material for Cairo's mosques and palaces. But a few remain at the base, and their precision is unmistakable. Angles accurate to within 0.5 arc seconds. Surfaces flat to within 0.02 inches over their entire length. This is not primitive construction. This is engineering that rivals or exceeds modern capability. And then there's the question of purpose. The conventional explanation is that the pyramids were tombs, monuments to the pharaoh's egos and their desire for eternal life. But no mummy has ever been found inside the Great Pyramid. No treasure, no burial goods, just empty chambers and mysterious shafts pointing toward specific stars. What if the pyramids were not tombs at all? What if they served a different function entirely, one that we no longer understand? Some researchers have suggested the pyramids were power plants, generating energy through some unknown mechanism. Others propose they were communication devices, aligned with cosmic phenomena we have not identified. Still others believe they were repositories of knowledge, encoded in their geometry and alignment, waiting for a future civilization advanced enough to decode them. We do not have definitive answers, but the questions themselves reveal how little we actually know about our own past. Hancock's most controversial argument is perhaps his simplest. Our timeline of human history is wrong. Conventional archaeology places the emergence of civilization around 3000 before Christ in Mesopotamia and Egypt. Before that, humans were primitive, living in scattered settlements, incapable of large-scale organization or sophisticated technology. But the evidence suggests otherwise. Göbekli Tepe proves that organized societies capable of monumental construction existed 7,000 years before the first pyramids were supposedly built. The water erosion on the Sphinx suggests advanced culture in Egypt, at least 12,000 years ago. The precision of the Great Pyramid suggests knowledge that should have taken millennia to develop. What if civilization is much older than we think? What if there were advanced cultures that rose and fell long before recorded history, leaving only scattered monuments that we cannot explain? This is what Hancock calls the fingerprints of the gods, traces of a lost civilization encoded in the structures they left behind. The Younger Dryas impact hypothesis adds another dimension to this theory. Around 12,800 years ago, something catastrophic happened to Earth. Temperatures plunged. Many large animal species went extinct. Sea levels rose dramatically as massive ice sheets melted. Scientists now have evidence that this event was triggered by a cosmic impact, possibly a comet fragment striking the North American ice sheet. The devastation would have been global. Any coastal civilization would have been wiped out by tsunamis and flooding. If an advanced civilization existed before this event, their coastal cities would now be underwater. Their low-lying monuments would be submerged or destroyed. Only structures built on high ground or designed to survive catastrophe would remain. Structures like the Great Pyramid. Think about it. Think about it. The pyramid has survived earthquakes, wars, looting, and 4,500 years of weathering. Its core structure is virtually indestructible. You wanted to preserve something for future generations, something that would survive any catastrophe, you might build exactly what we see at Giza. This is speculation, of course, but it is speculation grounded in evidence that mainstream archaeology continues to ignore. The debate around Graham Hancock's work reveals something interesting about how knowledge is controlled. His books have sold millions of copies. His Netflix documentary has been watched by tens of millions. Public interest in alternative history has never been higher. Yet mainstream academics continue to dismiss him without engaging with his actual evidence. They attack his credentials instead of his arguments. They insist the questions have been answered when clearly they have not. The establishment's response to Hancock says more about their insecurity than his credibility. If his theories were easily disprovable, why not simply disprove them? Why the character attacks? Why the refusal to allow independent investigation? Here is what I think is really happening. The evidence Hancock has assembled is strong enough to threaten careers built on conventional assumptions. If the timeline of human history needs revision, textbooks need rewriting, academic reputations need reconsidering, the entire foundation of Egyptology needs rebuilding. That is why the resistance is so fierce. Not because Hancock is wrong, but because the implications of him being right are too destabilizing to accept. But evidence does not care about academic politics. Evidence does not respect conventional timelines. Evidence simply exists, waiting to be acknowledged. And the evidence at Giza continues to speak. Water erosion patterns that suggest an age measured in millennia, not centuries. Precision engineering that matches or exceeds modern capability. Astronomical alignments that point to dates far older than conventional estimates. Machining marks that indicate tools we do not know existed. Graham Hancock did not create this evidence. He simply had the courage to point at it and ask why mainstream archaeology refuses to explain it. After decades of research, thousands of pages of documentation, and countless hours of field investigation, Hancock has presented a case that demands serious consideration. Not acceptance without question, but genuine scientific investigation free from academic prejudice. Until that investigation happens, the debate will continue. But perhaps that is the point. Perhaps the greatest mystery is not what the pyramids are, but why those in power seem so determined to ensure we never find out. If you made it this far, thank you for joining us on this investigation. Leave a like if this evidence made you question what you thought you knew. Tell us in the comments which piece of evidence you found most compelling, and what mystery you want us to explore next. Because some questions do not go away just because experts refuse to answer them. They wait, carved in stone, until someone finally has the courage to ask. And the pyramids have been waiting for a very long time.